Let me introduce myself. My name is Vencel. I came from Budapest, actually, and I came with some nostalgic feelings because 6 years ago I spent a week per month in Bucharest, and now I have a chance also to meet old friends in Bucharest. Also, I could realize that there are a few things which do not change in Bucharest, like the traffic. But this conference is a great opportunity also to share my thoughts about 5G security. And the presentation will be also about shared responsibility, how shared responsibility will bring us digital trust, will bring us higher security for this critical industry. So we live in the fourth industrial revolution, and this age is actually bringing technological advances. It's changing the way we live, the way we work, and this is actually an age where the world is full of things which are sensing, which are collecting data about the environment, about us. The things are connected, as we could hear from the previous presentation. And also things are being intelligent. Based on the data collected, based on the connections, based on the circumstances, intelligence is there everywhere in all the industry. Also, we can say that the ICT infrastructure will be the foundation of this new world. But this digital growth, these disruptive technologies which are changing our lives, brings us not just opportunities, but challenges as well. What are these challenges? The opportunities, first of all, the cloud, usage of cloudification brings us advantage of resource sharing, easy resource sharing. There are more and more open platforms instead of closed platforms available. The usage of AI and big data gives power to in-depth mining of information. The mobile networks and sensors, which are interconnected to each other and to the network and to the central servers, are actually collecting information and giving us the opportunity to infer from the data and deliver great results. What are the challenges? The challenges are that, and we could hear in the previous presentation as well, that the traditional network perimeter is blurred. Protection should not be just on the network perimeter level. The protection should be zero trust based, as we could hear earlier. Also, the data processing is not just happening in the traditional data center. It's happening everywhere. The data processing is not only at one place, but it's distributed. Probably you heard also about edge computing. Because of these new technologies, the attack surface becomes larger and larger. And this attack surface gives also the risk of additional vulnerabilities. So number of vulnerabilities increasing. How can we overcome these challenges? What are the solutions? And I show you one example, the airline industry. The airline industry has successfully established an ecosystem where we can trust. Why do we trust? Because we get on the plane. There are aircrafts which we consider safe. This entire ecosystem, why is it safe? Why do we trust in this ecosystem? It's because each and every stakeholder, each and every participant does its own job responsibly. They are, and the entire safety rules, security rules, are based on predefined and commonly agreed standards. And everybody agrees to this, and everybody meets all the requirements. what are other ways to respond to this increasing number of challenges? How EU is responding? EU started to respond to this increasing number of challenges in 2013, where they established the cybersecurity strategy. Later on, more and more directives and strategies come out. Recently, you could hear yesterday the second version of NIS has been accepted by European Commission. It will be a very, very thorough and important directive which has to be put into a law in each and every EU countries. And it will impact many, many industries. Now the question is how such rule and such law can be enforced, and who will finance the preparation of especially the small and medium enterprises. But that's another question, another topic of presentation. Also, a month ago, Cyber Resilience Act has been also released, which will be, again, an important factor and will define, let's say, the basic security level of digitally connected products. Also, these challenges, when we look at these challenges, we have to look at from the angle of complex systems. These complex systems, as NISA, the European Cybersecurity Agency, defined, these complex systems contain several stakeholders and layers. There are ICT systems, sectoral ICT systems, which provide services to the end users, heavily rely on ICT infrastructures such as 5G or cloud computing, which are made of ICT products which are delivered or provided by ICT vendors. And what NISA says that these layers are very much interconnected to each other. And the security of this entire system, the complex system, is a shared responsibility. Each and every stakeholder must do its own job. Now, 5G becomes essential in more and more industries. So, the 5G is already available in smart plants. There are also, the 5G technology is also available in healthcare. For example, you could hear about complex operations where one of the professor was available only remotely through a VR glass. Or it's available in agriculture, it's available in education as well. And there are several industries, plants, logistics centers, which already use the advantage of 5G connections. Now the security of, because of this, the security of 5G networks is critical, and it must meet higher requirements. Why? Why do I say this? It's because the industry applications which are carried out on 5G networks are actually connected also to the enterprise networks. So the borderline is blurred between the carrier-provided 5G network and the enterprise network. For example, the user plane function, which is deployed at the network edge, it carries also enterprise applications. And why? Because the latency of these applications is critical. So what does it mean? It means that such networks must not only satisfy the carrier's own security requirement, but must also meet the industry, all the industry requirements and all the all the industry requirements and all the enterprise requirements as well. So it means very, very high standards must be met. Now on the next slide, I hope I can start a video for you just to demonstrate one of the application. Yeah, 1 sec. Okay, it may not work, but just to tell you about that, so in Fényes-Littke, there is a logistics terminal. It is about, railways. You may know that between Hungary and Ukraine, there is a different railway system. In Hungary, it's different. The distance between the pair of railways is smaller than in Ukraine. Therefore, what needs to be done is there has to be, wagons which are coming from Ukraine. Has to be the packages and the entire stuff has to be moved to a Hungarian wagon, and all these things are done remotely through cranes. And these big cranes are not operated locally, but through a terminal over 5G network. I suggest that you check on YouTube this video. It's very nice. It shows how the entire 5G operation is done remotely through 5G network. And what are other key security challenges of 5G networks? There are different business changes. These business changes are coming from 3 different applications. One of them requires very high mobile bandwidth, enhanced mobile bandwidth, such as delivery of images through 5G, video images. The other one is massive machine type communication. It's for smart plants where autonomous vehicles talk to each other, communicate to each other and to the servers in factories. And the last one is ultra reliable low latency computing, communication, where it's very important to have very low latency communication between for example, between cars. So it's about intelligent driving, and between the central system as well. Network changes, only 2 things to mention here. A service-based architecture is the new feature of 5G network, and slicing. In terms of technological changes, I have already mentioned the clouds, usage of clouds, and virtualization. So the network functions are virtualized. And on the bottom of the screen, you can see how the 5G architecture consists of. There are different layers. So there is a layered architecture, which is also a new thing in 5G networks. Now let's look at if, let's say, there are attacks or there were attacks to 5G applications, then which part of the architecture was attacked? What we can see from a database, world's largest database hacks, is that majority of the attacks are done on applications, and only 2% of the hacks were done at the product layer. So regardless of whether which layer gets the hit, It's very important to protect all of them. But just be aware that when you hear about that a 5G system was hacked, do not always think that the network was hacked. Usually, when you hear such news, then think about that it might be also the application which is on top of the entire 5G infrastructure. And that if that application, if that code is not secure enough, there's no end-to-end security, then it will be very easy to have a data leakage or a hacked application. Now, in order to improve the security, what do we need to do? As with any other information security application, CIA is very important: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. What does it mean in terms of 5G and 5G networks? Confidential and integrity, we have to protect the user information, the subscription information, location of the device, user communication data, and also carriers data and information, the CDRs. Availability, we have to identify illegal attacks which try to make the systems unavailable. And traceability is very important, so log everything so that later on when there is an incident, it's possible to identify where and how, what happened and where it has come from. So in order to secure 5G, which players, which stakeholders need to work on this and collaborate? There are vendors. The responsibility of the vendors is to provide the product security and to make sure that their development processes are fully secure. They follow security by design, privacy by design standards. Operators, the carriers, their responsibility is to build a secure and resilient network and implement in-depth security. Service providers are responsible for end-to-end security, and they have a responsibility to service application data security as well. These are the three key players, but they are supported by standard organizations and also government and regulatory agencies. The standard organizations define the standards for 5G networks, and the government just releases the laws and sets up also standards, mandatory, for certain applications, industries, or infrastructure. So, let me just go back. So there are I brought three solutions to these problems and challenges. One of them is design principles. When thinking about 5G, building 5G architecture, what are the key design principles? The second one is a 5G secure knowledge base, security knowledge base, which is mainly for service providers and operators. And the third tool is NESAS, which is a network equipment security assurance scheme, mainly for vendors and operators. So regarding the first one, what are the top-level design principles for 5G cybersecurity? Principle number one is in-depth defense. Maybe you heard already about in this conference. It's practically protection against border intrusion and lateral movement attacks. Some examples: anti-DOS, access control, encryption, anti-tampering measures. The second principle is zero trust. Zero trust at 5G. What does it mean? It means what you heard earlier in the presentation. Do not trust, always verify. Never trust, always verify. So do not just authenticate the user, but always check the other parameters as well. and there has to be a continuous and dynamic evaluation of each and every access request. Principle number 3 is adaptive security, which means continuously optimizing based on IPDRR methodology and continuously detecting and looking for anomalies. And when anomalies found, there has to be a manual or semi-automated response to those network anomalies which are found. And very important to mention the security development lifecycle, which has to be fully in place for application developer or also for product manufacturers as well. Now the second tool I want to mention is the 5G cybersecurity knowledge base. What is it exactly? It's actually a document repository which has been prepared by GSMA members. GSMA is a collection of organizations from the mobile industry, and they have shared their best practices and their knowledge and created a document repository which lists all the threats to the 5G networks. But not only threats are listed, but also controls. Controls how to mitigate those threats and risks. So this is actually a very good case for collaboration between different stakeholders in the 5G industry. Just to give you a feeling of what this 5G security knowledge base looks like, you can see on the left side, it is based on comprehensive threat analysis, and actually 44 threats were identified. 11 problems which were found on live networks, 22 risk items which are from the NISA threat landscape and industry knowledge base, and there were also 11 published vulnerabilities from GSMA security vulnerability library. And each of these threats are grouped into different fields. The fields are actually the network architecture elements, user equipment, radio access network, core, cloud, interconnect. And on the right side, you see for each and every threat, there is a detailed description of what it looks like. So in our case, it's a DOS attack against a core network. And the methodology is also mentioned there, how the attack is done, who is doing it through what devices, which protocols are used during the attack. And also the impact. What is the potential impact of such an attack? The impact can be unavailability of the network, of course, because of a DOS attack, and also unavailability of the customer service because they will be overwhelmed by a number of calls from angry users. Also, this knowledge base, as I mentioned earlier, gives us mitigation options or solutions as well. And on the right side, you see each and every stakeholder, the vendor, equipment vendor, the operator, the carrier, and the service provider, the application developer, can also see what needs to be done to mitigate the risk of such threat. So, for example, service provider has to look for abnormal behavior of their applications. The operator has to deploy anti-DOS devices or signaling firewalls, and the vendors has to implement anti-DOS pattern recognition mechanism in their equipment as well. So this was just an example of DOS attack against core network. But there are, of course, additional threats also mentioned in this in this knowledge base. And the GSMA, the GSM Association, believes that these 5G security risks can be addressed through the deployment of coordinated and verifiable security measures based on common standards. Now the third tool is NESAS. What NESAS is, Network Equipment Security Assurance Scheme, which is a standard. It has been created, developed by GSMA, the GSM Association, and 3GPP. The GSMA is all the mobile network stakeholders, shareholders, and 3GPP is the regulators. It's the association of regulators from different countries. So, and what it is exactly? So it's an assurance scheme. It provides opportunity to verify the equipment providers' security processes. The security of development process itself, how secure it is. Also, SCAS evaluation, SCAS specification is mentioned, which is targeting the equipment. So, the network equipments which are used to build a 5G network can be and are usually tested. Not only tested by the operators or carriers, but can be tested in certified laboratories and can get an evaluation report, a stamp, that yes, this equipment went through all the test cases and it can be considered as secure. Why is this good? What are the benefits of such a standard, such scheme? Is that it's not just developed by one country. It's developed by multiple countries globally. It's developed by industry regulators and players. So it's commonly accepted, and there is an expectation that also ENISA, the European Cybersecurity Agency, will adopt NESAS and will also make it mandatory for telecommunication networks. Why is it good? It's good because it defines technological requirements, tangible, so not static requirements, tangible and does not differentiate vendors based on the country of origin, for example, but looks at only the technical things of the equipment. And it's continuously evolved, so over the time, the features of 5G networks are considered, new features of the 5G network are considered, and also additional threats and risks are also mitigated in these new versions of NESAS. To give you a summary of how it looks, what it looks like, so on the top you see NESAS requirements towards the development and product development process. You see the standard life cycle of secure development: design, coding, compilation, testing, release, operation. And for each step, there are multiple set of standards which are set and requirements. Second version of NESAS also considers the process of insourcing sourcing of third-party components, because it's also supply chain security is nowadays one of the biggest threat to the security of these ecosystems. So NESAS will also make sure that sourcing of third-party components process will be also evaluated and checked. The SCAS specifications, as I mentioned, it's about equipment testing. So testing the core G Node B, the RAN equipments. More and more equipments added. So the second version contains additional 7 set of test cases. NESAS follows also technical measures of EU 5G Toolbox. EU 5G Toolbox was introduced in 2020 by European Commission and ENISA. And it's a very important toolbox, especially the technical requirements, and NESAS fully supports all these technical requirements, as you can see. There are a few technical requirements which are not related to equipment, such as physical security. Those are not really related to NESAS, and NESAS does not cover those. What are the benefits for different stakeholders of the mobile industry? The key benefits for mobile network operators is that they can have a visibility of security capabilities of equipment vendors and their network products prior to purchase. So they can see that, okay, I want to buy this equipment. Does it have a stamp or not? If it has been tested, evaluated in a certified laboratory, then they can be sure that they are purchasing a safe equipment. Also, it can reduce the security testing efforts of these operators because all the tests has been done in the certification laboratory. The benefit for national authorities and regulators is that this is a security assurance scheme which is ready for use. It can increase the effective security, not impacting negatively the industry. The benefits for equipment vendors is that they can, using these stamps and the test reports, they can demonstrate the adherence to security requirements to the stakeholders. This can also illustrate development, maintenance, and product security capabilities of the vendor. So finally, I want to emphasize that shared responsibility is nowadays both trend and a necessity. So the security of complex systems, ecosystems such as 5G, can only work if we can cooperate and collaborate. And each and every stakeholder does its own job in terms of ensuring the security of the entire ecosystem. The standards organizations must define the standards for the industry, or for the applications. The service providers and operators has to make sure that end-to-end security is done when developing an application and also operating an application or network. The ICT suppliers must make sure that their product development processes are fully secure. They follow security by design, privacy by design. And the citizens, the users of the applications must also follow instructions. They have to behave responsibly. And the government responsibility is to oversee the entire process and make sure that the right standards are set in law, which are not differentiating on static requirements such as country of origin, but rather focusing on technical measures. So I would like to thank you for your attention. I know this was the last presentation, and now you are all waiting for the awards. So the words from Klaus Schwab, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. The fourth industrial revolution brings us benefits, and we can grasp all the opportunities it presents if and as long as we are able to collaborate across industries, across disciplines, and across geographies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vencel. I see some hands in the air. That means we have some questions. Good.
Hello. Considering that 5G networks use the same infrastructure as 4G, 3G, and 2G networks, do these security measures being applied backwards compatible?
So the 5G network is different by architecture, and I think that there are new requirements coming in when it's about 5G. Different protocols are used. In terms of 5G systems, there are two different types. One is standalone 5G and non-standalone. Non-standalone is based on the existing 4G or 3G network, while the standalone is built from scratch. So for the non-standalone, when you are building a 5G network, you have to also consider the potential issues of the former, let's say, 4G or 3G networks as well, and you have to also mitigate those risks. Although we can say that if we compare the 4G to 5G, the 5G is more secure. Just to give you an example, the encryption level is 256-bit instead of 128. And there are, in terms of integrity, yes, there are also additional protections in place.
Thank you.
We have here in front and one question in the back.
Okay, so you said that the 5G security is way better than the 4G, but how did the companies manage to protect the network from downgrade attacks? It's quite pointless to have amazing security on one network if all you need to do is downgrade the user to a 4G network and apply a vulnerability.
I'm not sure I understand your question. So downgrading the from 5G to 4G?
Yes. You have two networks in parallel running, right? You have the 4G network and the 5G network. Usually you get downgraded when the signal gets low to keep connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any security measures in place to secure this practice of downgrading? Like, for example, if you have a jammer, you can easily downgrade. You make so that the phone or the IoT device or whatever doesn't have any more 5G signal. Are there any security measures? For example, I guess the provider of the network to send a map of the coverage and the phone or the device to check via GPS if it should have or not a 5G signal.
Yes, so I think in your case we are talking about non-standalone 5G networks, which are based on 4G. So there are 4G network elements also, and on top of that 5G is added. So yes, you have to also make sure that the existing 4G, so 4G network and network elements are also secured. But if you look at this knowledge base, which I mentioned, and NESAs, they are not only for 5G, but also for 4G as well. So if all these threats, which are identified for 5G, are mitigated, then you can be sure that you are also protecting the 4G network as well.
Okay. Okay, I see. Thank you.
Welcome.
It was, yeah, please.
My question is, with 6G around the corner, according to some articles at least, do you think that current enterprise users will focus on improving 5G security, or will just jump to the 6G network in hopes of better security?
I'm not sure I heard it. Can you repeat the question?
So, with 6G networks around the corner, according
6G.
to some articles at least, do you think, based on your expertise and experience, do you think that the current enterprise users will focus on improving the 5G security, or just jump to the 6G network and just hoping for better security?
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Now I heard it. So yes, the 6G is, yes, it's, let's say, on the, I'm not sure that it's on the corner. What I have seen is that there was a conference where 5.5G was actually discussed. So 6G is coming, but it's not yet available. What I can tell you is that 5G provides already the ultra low latency features which can be used by enterprises. For example, in Hungary, the Huawei Logistics Center in Págy uses already 5G standalone network, and autonomous vehicles are used in this factory, and they are using this feature, the ultra low latency feature of 5G network, and it's more than enough. It's much better than Wi-Fi, even better than Wi-Fi 6. So I think there is no need to wait for 6G. What 6G will bring, yes, maybe even lower latency, even higher bandwidth. But to be honest, even if you have 4G, if you want to watch a video on your mobile, you don't need an extra bandwidth. So the extra bandwidth, the 6G provided extra bandwidth will be needed in special cases, special use cases, for example, VR applications. This is my view. I don't think that enterprises will wait for 6G. I think they should start using the existing 5G features and also implement secure 5G.
Thank you very much, Vencel. If there are no other questions, then we have two.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. So you've talked about the fourth wave of the Industrial Revolution, right? And that it's coming and it's rapidly approaching, but how long do you estimate it'll take for it to be generalized here in Romania? Since I don't want to say that we're slow necessarily, but it takes a bit of time for things to get updated around these parts.
Mm-hmm. I see. So I think we already live in the fourth age of fourth industrial revolution, and I think also in Romania there are more and more enterprises which will take use of additional sensors. I think also there are many homes in Romania full of intelligent and connected IoT machines, and these IoT machines, IoT devices will also go into factories, will go into enterprises, and enterprises will definitely discover the benefits of using 5G, artificial intelligence technologies, and how business results can be gained from usage of these technologies, and as you could see, everything is connected, everything will be intelligent. So I don't think that there is it's not country specific. So I'm sure that even now, if we see Romania as well, of course there has to be a proper environment and also a system which allows competition, for example, which can also encourage the usage of 5G networks. Yes, of course, government can do a lot for this to make sure that more and more new technologies can be used in enterprises. But I'm sure it's here already.
Thank you so much.
Being given the low latency of the 5G network, how much longer would you estimate it will take to have self-driving cars or more smarter traffic?
Sorry, can you speak a little bit louder?
Being given the low latency of the 5G network, how much longer would you estimate it will take to have smart traffic or self-driving cars?
Smart driving, I think, I would say it still requires something like 5 years, because I think the basic infrastructure is not there, regardless of the country, whether it's Hungary, West Europe, or Romania. First, we have to make sure that our roads are are in good shape and in good quality. The technology is there, definitely. We can see Elon Musk and Tesla, what they are doing. It is working, but the entire environment has to be improved, and a lot of tests has to be done before it comes into the daily life of us, actually. So I would say 5 to 10 years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vencel.
You're welcome.
And I guess we can share with Vencel a round of applause. Thank you.